Hello friends, this is Mike from Wright, and this is the explanations video for SAT2's reading section, passage number 2, question 16. Alright, let's get started. As used in line 58, clashes, most nearly means. Alright, this is a words in context question, the kind of question that often tests commonly used words you already know, that are used in uncommon ways in the sentences in the passage. So here I think the words clashes is a pretty good example of this. I mean, I figure almost all of us know what it means to clash. Maybe you think about it in terms of fashion, like, oh my god, that shirt clashes so bad with that sweater. Or you've just heard the word clashes in these sort of like combative contexts, the clash of the titans. Okay, first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to read the actual context. There's a words in context question. Let's figure out what the context is. And they're saying it's in line 58, so let's find it, and it's right here. All right, so we're going to do a couple things. First, we're going to read the entire sentence in which it's housed, and then we're going to think about where it stands in the meta summary of the passage and the structure of the passage. What ideas is it a part of? Which part of the passage does it occur in? Because that's going to give us some understanding of the role it plays as well. So first, many moral dilemmas arise when these three versions pull in different directions, but clashes are not inevitable. All right, now there's a couple things to clarify. These three versions, what three versions? Here we're talking about the three versions of looking at ethics, the three versions of like definitions of ethics that the author describes over the course of the passage. First version was Adam Smith, second version was Aristotle, and third version was actions. Adam Smith is all about consequences and empathy, Aristotle is all about character, and the ethics as actions people think that ethics are a list of do's and don'ts. Now, this paragraph is the part of the passage where the author comes in with their own viewpoint and says these three ways can coexist. The author then gives this example of fair trade coffee, which you might remember as having this like the underlining or like the underscore, or the bottom line of this being that all three viewpoints are happy with fair trade coffee because fair trade coffee is happy coffee, and buying it has good consequences. That's Adam Smith happy. It's virtuous, so that's Aristotle happy, and it's the right way to act, so that's the actions people happy. So that's the overall context in which the word clashes appears, and it appears in the part where the author is saying clashes are not inevitable. These three viewpoints can play together well. They don't need to butt heads. Okay. With that understanding of the word clashes in this context, it's sort of like a clash of ideas, the author saying these ideas don't need to clash. Let's look at the answer choices. Now I'm going to skip over the rightness of A. We're going to come back to it. We're going to look at the wrongness of B and C and D first. So starting with B, as used in line 58, clashes most nearly means mismatches. Now, I think the reason why they put this in here is because of the fashion context. One of the most common ways we use the word clash, especially high schoolers, straight up, high schoolers using the word clashes, is to talk about people's clothes. Mismatches is like clothes. That's what the word clashes means a lot of the time we use the word clashes. That shirt clashes with those jeans. Just because the word can mean that sometimes, though, doesn't mean that it means that here. And I think it's worth going in a little deeper. It's not just that mismatches is only a thing that happens to clothes. And here, so let's think, and let's just replace the word mismatches in the sentence. Moral dilemmas arise when these three versions pull in different directions, but mismatches are not inevitable. Here I think there's a couple problems with this. I think one is that it's maybe a little bit too weak of a word. The ideas sometimes do mismatch, or maybe another way of putting it is that we don't need the different approaches to match perfectly, and in fact mismatches like kind of do happen between them sometimes. So it's not that mismatches aren't inevitable. Mismatches are gonna happen. In fact, mismatches kind of are inevitable because the ideas don't match. What we're looking for is a stronger word, right? Think about clashes with respect to fashion. mismatch with respect to fashion is like a strong thing. It's a bad thing. You don't want to mismatch. Whereas mismatching two ideas here it's less of a big deal. You know, these two things don't have to match perfectly, but like, that's life. Ideas don't have to match perfectly. So in the context of ideas, it's less of a strong term. We don't need these ideas to match. Another way, and this is not a very satisfactory explanation, but the SAT's testing of grammar sometimes falls into this category. It just isn't a conventional use of the word. We don't, in fact, use the word mismatches when we're talking about ideas very often. It isn't a conventional way of speaking. Now, if you missed it for that reason, if you thought that mismatches was a pretty solid way of describing this thing, and for whatever reason you didn't like the word conflicts, then I think that's kind of okay. If you're only at the point where you're missing questions because you don't know the vocabulary words, you're doing pretty damn well on the test. There are lots of other challenging things on the test to get good at that don't involve vocabulary. So if you missed it for that reason and that reason alone, don't be too hard on yourself. It's not like you're going to learn every single vocabulary word in the world and the conventional uses for all the vocabulary words in the world, you know, by the time you take your SAT. It's just not the most efficient way of studying or expecting yourself to study. All right. Answer choices C and D fall into kind of the same category. These are both literal definitions of the word clashes. These are pretty like straightforward, maybe top of the dictionary definitions of what a clash is. Clash of the Titan. It's a brawl. It's a physical fight. Two people are clashing. They're gonna fight each other. They're gonna get into a real battle, right? Collisions is also a very literal word, right? There's like a car crash, right? Or like a boat clashes right into like the harbor, you know? Both of these words are physical. They are used to describe physical clashes. This is not a physical clash. In the passage, we're talking about a clash between two ideas. Here, really, I mean, and to forward to answer choice A, we're talking about a conflict. We're talking about two ideas that are set against each other that have different things to say about the same issue. That's the abstract clash. That's the clash, the kind of thing that we describe as a clash in the realm of ideas. When I have an idea or a way of thinking about something that is different than your way of thinking about that thing, and then the two of us come to a disagreement on a discrete issue, you know, is the death penalty right or wrong? My ideas might clash with your ideas if we have a conflict with respect to whether it's right or wrong. I think it's right, you think it's wrong, etc. All right, that's it for this question. I'll see you in the next video.